quite intimidating, I might add, waiting to hear this interview. I was a little uncomfortable, so before we went live, I called Reverend to let him know my current situation, in case he had to come get me. We laughed, but by the time the interview was over, those Fox employees stood spellbound. They did what most folks did when they got an opportunity to be in Reverend's presence and hear him. They listened in amazement to one of the most prolific men to ever walk this earth. I'm so glad I was brave enough to go there that day to record this. On that day, those folks in that studio knew I was somebody.
Now, Melody, how long this gonna last?
I just got some questions for you. It won't be long.
Answer my question.
No, it won't be more than 40 minutes, Reverend.
Oh, no, it ain't gonna be no 40 minutes. It won't be more than 40.
Oh, no, Reverend, I got some questions that I just want you.
I'm sure they're great, but having said that, you have to answer them in the same day. Let me know when you're ready for real.
They're ready now, I think. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Reverend, listen, I wanted to do this interview with you because, everyone is going to Washington, D.C. on August 28th to commemorate the anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech. And it dawned on me one day that you are probably the person who had a front row seat and watching it, right? And what has transpired from that moment until now. And I wanted to hear from your perspective. I think that it would be so enlightening, not just for me, but also for the listening audience and for all who want to listen. And I think that it's so important that they do. So I got a couple of great questions for you, and I want you to answer for us. If we look at August 28th, I want to go back to that time. First of all, how did you get involved in the movement?
1 second. Can I stop 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
It was Emmett Till's 1955. It was the date of Emmett Till's.
The date of his...
He was lynched.
He was lynched after
Because it was prior to... Yeah, it was prior to... It was prior to... 1 second. It had to be around in May of 1955, right? That's right. August 20th was to the date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, girl. Now.
Oh, okay. Ask that question again.
Indeed.
Okay, Reverend, how did you get involved in the movement?
There is a context to that question. I grew up in rigid legal racial segregation in Greenville, South Carolina. My father served in World War II and came home and didn't have the right to vote. Had to sit behind lots of POWs. I remember getting on the bus with my mother to go downtown, and the bus driver said, "We want some order in this bus." He got real loud. I had sat behind him. I used to sit behind my grandfather. He drove a wooden coal truck. He really was talking to me, and all the adults in the back of the bus froze. And my mother came and got me, and I didn't want to move because I felt innocent. I had done nothing but sat down. And she pinched me, and I cried. And one of the men on the back of the bus, who was my father's friend, Mr. Yates, said, "She's doing that to you because she loves you. And they don't want to sit next to you. Don't you sit next to them. Back the bus will get what the front will get." He was conditioning me to segregation because the sign above the driver's head melted the red, colored seat from the rear, whites from the front. Those who violate will be punished by law. So my mother was really hurting me to keep from me getting really hurt. In that context, we all knew segregation. In that season, August 20th, 1955, Emmett Till was lynched. We were about the same age, which was a lesson to all of our generation. So August 28th, Emmett Till lynched. I once asked Mrs. Parks, who sat down December 1st, 1955, really, some other women did not sit down long. They got off the bus. But why did you stay on the bus? She said, "I thought about Emmett Till. I couldn't go back." In that context of lynching and persecution, punishment, lose your job, and all of that, Dr. King emerges with this message of hope and courage.
Well, how did you meet him, Reverend? How did you and Dr. King meet?
I really met him around 1963 in Atlanta. And I met him also on his way to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I was in Atlanta speaking for the fraternity, Omega Psi Phi at that time. And I met him more directly in Selma in 1965 during the protest for the right to vote. But I was trying to say that within the context of our Southern setting, when most ministers and people had adjusted to the back of the bus or to their place, he broke out the place. And so the idea of mass demonstrations and ministers began to preach a social, revolutionary, liberating gospel, he began to change the whole scenario because, Melody, if you're living in a building and in the penthouse there's a strong wind, the roof blows off, the folk in the penthouse are upset, but other folk are not upset, it's just the penthouse. But if the foundation shakes, everybody shakes. He shook the foundation, he and Dr. Abernathy, and then he and his other young ministers, he was 26 years old when the boycott began. He and Reverend Abernathy, Reverend C.K. Steele, Reverend Tom Kilgore, these were young, strong Black preachers who set on a different course. And so in that setting, other ministers began to preach this kind of look at what's happening to us. And when they won that battle in 56, it said to young lawyers, you can also win these segregation cases. So young lawyers emerged along with young ministers.
Well, you were one of the youngest, if not the youngest, in his circle, right? In his inner circle, right?
Well, what had happened was July 17, 1960. I came home from school that December when I was 18 and I couldn't use the library, and I was determined to use it. And that summer, 7 of us went to jail, July 17, 1960. I was 19 years old at the time, and that was with NAACP. Then I went to North Carolina A&T. I was working with the Corps on the demonstration. So by the time I met him in 65, I was 24. That's when I joined him. I was 24 years of age in 65, and I was with him until he was killed in 68. And what you find in him is several things. First of all, he was a man of great faith. He thought faith should be used to change the law, not faith for faith's sake. Many people use faith just to an ugly condition. He thought people of faith had to change their objective conditions. So he used faith to change the law. The kind of what made him different, the 64 civil rights, the 55 Montgomery Bush boycott, he was fighting to change states' rights law. And people of faith say will march until the doorbells of heaven ring. In marching in 63, the March on Washington, that day that he gave that speech, Melody, from Texas across to Florida up to Maryland, we couldn't use a single public toilet. We could not, our money was counterfeited. We could not buy ice cream at Howard Johnson's or rent a hotel at the Holiday Inn. At that time, Black soldiers were laughed at by white Nazi prisoners of war on military bases because Nazis had more rights than Blacks on a military basis. That was a rebellion speech. He said, we've come here today. And I think so often we're confused about it being called the dream speech. It really was the broken promise. He said, we were promised Lincoln. He looked around at Lincoln's, said, your majestic shadows. We were promised the Emancipation Proclamation after 246 years. We were promised. He looked at the Congress 100 years ago in 1863, 1865. You promised. And yet we come here with a bounce check, promissory note, bounce check marked insufficient funds. It was a protest. At the end of this, he said, I dream of a day when you will honor the broken promises. It was about you made the promise of Emancipation Proclamation. You made the promise of ending segregation. You made the promise of equal opportunity. And yet we've come to the day for you to honor that promise. And so I dream of a day when you will honor us with the protection. I refuse to believe that you can't honor it. You got enough military power to conquer nations around the world. You mean to tell me that we as citizens can have the right to use the toilet? We don't have the right to vote. We don't have basic dignity. We're faced by barbarity. So even that speech was about a very militant speech, demanding that we have equal opportunity.
You know what, Reverend, that's amazing to me. Some people feel Black people were not on board with Dr. King. I've heard people talk about the minister in Chicago who actually changed the address of his church. What did Dr. King think about Blacks who could not understand his long-term goals for us?
Well, many blacks have become conditioned. See, even within slavery, you got some people in the field who see slavery different than those who are in the house, different than those who are in the yard. You have class systems even within segregation, even within slavery. And there were some who had found their place. Plus, they were afraid that they would lose their job. I remember ministers speaking out, and the boss who the members drove for said, if you don't get that preacher out of town, then you can't keep your job. They would use members to fight ministers. There was a whole system of intimidation. Or if you teach school and you're a member of NAACP, you'll lose your job. They saw NAA as quote unquote a communist organization. So if you were a teacher, you were trapped by fear, threatened with the loss of job. Sometimes ministers spoke out and the members moved on them. And so within that kind of, many people adjusted to living on the fear with no plan except very slow legal action to bring about the change. The 54th Supreme Court decision was passed, but we still had to go to the back of the bus because there was no plan to implement in the rhythm the segregation laws. And so when Dr. King emerges, in the South, I would argue, blacks were trapped with fear. That is fear of loss of job, loss of life, the Emmett Till, the assassinations, the lynchings. In the North, blacks were trapped with cynicism. Don't believe it can happen. And so we fought the fear in the South. But we fought the disbelief in the North. But what we gained from the South was we began to win some victories that had not been won. When we fought and won the right to sit where we chose to sit, that was a victory.
Right.
We could use the move it by theater and sit downstairs, run upstairs. That was a victory. When we began to demand the right to use the bus and could use and do it, it was a victory. Go to the school of our choice. We came north having won battles. We won the 64 Public Accommodations Bill. We won the 65 Voting Rights Act. So by the time we got to Chicago, we were on a roll, and many blacks up north were behind us psychologically. Because here we were trapped here in Chicago, still on these high-rise projects, which was a way of keeping us from having fair representation politically. We were free. We could go to the Wrigley Field, the White Sox baseball park, and could sit next to white people, but we didn't have our share of representation. We could not remove the garbage from the stores as scavengers. When Bush and Smith built the first chain store through Operation Breadbasket in 47 KM, we never built a chain store. Blacks could not be meat cutters. We were locked out and didn't even realize how unfree we were.
Right.
And so there were ministers who were aligned with the machine. And when Dr. King came to Chicago, I should never forget, even ministers who didn't support him in the South at least stayed out the way. And so we came here. I remember a group of ministers who went down and met with me and sang the song Must Daily Better Cross Along and All the World Go Free, as opposed to Must Jesus Better. They transposed the song. Just outright, unapologetically, on contract and timing, and anti-Dr. King very publicly. Matter of fact, when we brought the idea of breadbasket to the ministers' conference in Chicago, the minister said, don't bring that King message to my church, even though I'm just a host. So when Reverend Evans allowed it to come to the floor, the minister went and got his pistol. We were driven out of the church at gunpoint and had to take the conference to Reverend Evans to Fellowship Baptist Church. And we fought real serious anti-King among blacks in this city, driven by fear and really corrupted politics. So I knew him as a guy who could inspire the frightened to stand up with courage, to convince the cynical that there was hope beyond being cynical. And then we could win legally and politically if we engage in mass action. We were told when you come to Chicago, you could have mass action in races in Birmingham, not Chicago. Well, that was a Gage Park here, which was worse than Birmingham. There's a Cicero here. So he was really doing three things here at the same time. One, Triple CO fighting to make our schools better. 2, Operation Breadbasket, economic leverage. And 3, the mass march for open housing. So we came to Chicago, and it transitioned urban policy, began to change our minds. I had begun to work with him the year before in 65. And so ministers like Reverend Evans, Clay Evans, Reverend Blair, Reverend Thurston, Reverend Sims, Reverend Brady, as these ministers, Reverend A.P. Jackson, as they began to, Reverend Leaks, as they began to step forward and give us some base of operation, it became more involved in politics. People like Gus Savage and people like Charlie Hayes, and
Mm-hmm.
they began to stand up. And the VON called themselves the voice of Negro, whether it was your dad, Purvis Spann, or Rodney Jones, or Roy Woods. These guys used this station as the voice of liberation. This was Dr. King's outlet.
Yeah.
His sermons were broadcast on the station on Sunday night at 11 o'clock. As a matter of fact, when he was killed in Memphis, and I was with him, the first station in the world to know he had been killed was WVON. I went to the room and called Mrs. King, said, I think Dr. King has been shot. I'm not sure how severely, but please get here. I really knew it. I just couldn't say what I had seen. And I called VON around 6 o'clock. And said, my brothers and sisters, Dr. King has just been shot. Let's pray for him. And we all cried and prayed on this station in 1968 when that happened.
Yeah.
And out of this struggle came a sense of independence. We unseated the daily machinery at the convention in 72. We began to fight back and break out. So it's no small wonder out of Chicago comes the Harold Washington campaign of 83, because an independence movement had been born out of many years of struggle in Chicago. Then our running in 84 and 88, which changed the scene in so many ways. Karamel Brown becoming the U.S. Senator, President Barack Obama becoming U.S. Senator, then becoming president, and then Roland Burris becoming a U.S. Senator. But we have 3 senators from this state.
Right.
We have 3 black congressmen. All of that came out of a renewed energy in Chicago in greater measure because of Dr. King's presence.
So do you think that Dr. King's death escalated Black progress in America?
In many ways, it did. We did not surrender. We came out fighting. I would call the period 68 to 08 the wilderness. He was killed in Memphis. We reacted by rioting. I mean, they turned Memphis upside down. Memphis, LA, Chicago. We fought back. Some fought by courts, some fought by burning, but people fought back. And then politically, at the big convention in Gary in 71, we never had such a meeting before. All over the country trying to realign our politics based upon the 65 Voting Rights Act. So out there you look up and Coleman Young becomes mayor of Detroit, and Bradley of LA, and Hatcher, who was a host, mayor of Gary, Stokes, the mayor of Cleveland. We came with a renewed sense of political fervor. And we began to talk about the idea of a Black president, as a matter of fact, just searching our way to the dark. And Shirley Chisholm announces in New York. And that became a phase of it. Beating the daily machinery in Miami in 72, that was a part of it. We never stopped fighting because once we got the right to vote, Melody, we still had to fight gerrymandering, annexation, at-large, rural purging schemes to deny the impact of that vote. And so we didn't stop. And so during that season, whether it was the artists singing like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, or Stevie Wonder, Blowing in the Wind, our artists got involved, putting their part to it. So by when I ran in 84, we had far more popular votes than delegate votes. And we realized then that at a high threshold to lock you out, and you can win or take all. So if I get 49.9 and someone else gets 50.1, they take all. That was funny math. We fought that. So by 88, watch this. We argued we should lower the threshold so more people can be a delegate, and we should get our proportionate share of delegates no matter what the majority outcome is. So based upon that theory, in 08, when President Barack ran, Hillary wins California barely, and Texas barely, and Ohio and Pennsylvania. On the winner take all, she would have been the winner. But we changed the rules in 88. So he kept getting his proportion of votes, even as she was winning the majority, he was getting his as well. And so so 08 becomes the last lap of a 60-year race, from Black soldiers demanding Truman desegregate the military in 48, the 54 decision, the 55 boycott, the Little Rock battle in 57, the sit-ins in 1960s, the March on Washington in 1963, the Public Accommodation Bill in 64, the Voting Rights Act in 65, open housing in 68, the Black Convention in Gary, Indiana, becoming mayors and council people. So after 60 years, emerges running the last lap of that 60-year race. Last lap of that race was President Barack Obama. So it's a great sense of continuity in that struggle. All of us are very connected to each other.
Reverend, what was the most important thing that both your 84 and your 88 presidential run did for Black folks? I know the delegate piece and how important that was to the election of Barack Obama, but what did your presidency do to change America?
It may have changed our minds about what was possible. I remember talking with President Barack one time. We were downtown having a meal, and he said, I was a student at Columbia, and I watched you debate Hart and Mondale. And I said after that debate, this thing is possible. We were planting seed. We did not know what seed would germinate where. We redefined what was possible. And because we won, white women changed, said, well, if blacks can run, why we can't be on the ticket? I said, well, if Indira Gandhi can run India and Golda Meir can run Israel and Thatcher can run Britain, why can't a woman be on the ticket? That's how Ferrara got on the ticket, because our struggle has always been connected to that struggle as well. 65, when blacks got the right to vote, white women couldn't serve on juries. 18-year-olds couldn't vote. Latinos could not vote bilingually. And so our struggle has always changed the rules for everybody else. So whether it was women, teenagers, Latinos, Native Americans, we have been the canary in the mine for change and for hope. And so even whether it was then in 08, even blacks demanding now a priority on jobs, we've always been the canary in the mine representing the pain of everybody else.
What do you think was the decade of the height of progress for Black folks, Reverend? When do you think we were our strongest, our most cohesive, and doing our best?
Well, I think the pain around Dr. King's assassination was one of those moments beyond controversy. I mean, everybody believed it was wrong. Everybody heard, everybody cried. We must do something. A whole generation was born. Out of his crucifixion came a resurrection of a generation. Many people define life before and after April 4, 1968. Some define it, the 88 campaign, in that way, in a political sense, because more folks registered than ever before, more than 2 million, more voted than ever before, more different people ran and won than ever before. And so, of course, in that season, 08, President Barack Obama's victory in 2008 was a very high moment in our quest for recognition and for power and respect in this country. But one thing we knew then and now, that was simply a stop on the way, because we are not there yet. We're free, but not equal. We have the highest office in the land on the one, on the other hand, we are number one in infant mortality.
Right.
We're number one in short life expectancy. We're number one in unemployment. So, and to that extent, we are free, but not equal. And there is no time to relax in this quest for equal protection under the law, equality, and dignity.
Some people would say that we're going backwards. And I know it seems like an oxymoron that, you know, all of the gains would lead to us seeing a Black president. But yet many would say, Reverend, we're in the worst times and in this generation's history. Unemployment, lack of education. How do you rationalize that, or can you?
Well, the extent to which we are socially freed of barbarity and we're freed of the humiliation of you can't go here, you can't go there because of race, we've overcome that. On the other hand, we have the highest unemployment. Number one, as I said, in infant mortality. In the recession, we lost the most houses. We were targeted by the banks who took away our houses, and we were the least protected by law. And there are 2.4 million Americans in prison, more than 1 million African-American men, more than there are in college. And so to that extent, there is a sense that we're going backwards. We're also under a siege. You know, 2008 was a great moment for us. But for the right wing and for the states' writers, it became a moment for them to regroup, to fight back violently. You know, in 1863, Emancipation Proclamation is announced. Then Lincoln's killed, 1865, we get 13th Amendment. So we go forward for 12 years to 1877. Then there's a radical cutback. So 1896, it's all been lost. We're in that same season now where what they call the Tea Party. This is not the Boston Tea Party. that fought to overthrow corrupt British occupation. This is the Fort Sumter Tea Party that fired the shot to maintain slavery and the states' rights in the South. This is the Fort Sumter states' rights. So they take the position that President Barack must come down. We're on the Great Titanic, and they want to take down the captain if it means sinking the ship. Just as they did in 1860 during the Civil War. They're fighting the Civil War. And what they've done by maneuvering at this time, the captain is on the siege, and they're protecting those on the deck. They're protecting those who are in the cabins, and they're leaving vulnerable those in the hull of the ship. So we lost our houses. We lost our jobs. Therefore, we got to fight back. The president got to fight back because these guys do not want reconciliation. They want to conquer. And Dr. King's theory was you had to have confrontation before reconciliation. Sometimes President Barack is so into reconciliation, you cannot heal the wound unless you take the glass out. These right-wingers must be defeated, not just reconciled with.
It's interesting you would say that confrontation before reconciliation. Explain that for me.
Well, I mean, the Montgomery bus boycott was confrontation. When it was all over, then we can sit together. But we first must have the right to say what we choose. In Birmingham, we had to confront Bull Connor. He said, you go to jail, we see you ain't got enough jail cells. We had to confront. We'll blow up your churches. We're going to fight back. We're going to confront until the laws change. Once the law's over, now we can live together. Once we have our respect. The voting rights in Selma in 65. Bobby Kennedy's Dr. King, you really shouldn't march because it's too dangerous. We're going to march because we have the right to vote. And we confronted and we bled, and Ronald Goodman and Cheney were killed, and Paul Luisa were killed, and others were killed. And after the blood was shed and the confrontation was over, we got the right to vote. Now we can live together. The research, education, confrontation, when it's over, reconciliation. You cannot reconcile until you've won the battle. And right now, we're giving too much territory to those who mean to destroy our movement, and the president as well.
So how do we turn it around? Like, what needs to happen in order for us to make real progress as a people?
Two things must happen. One, we must revive our sense of hope and urge the president to take on a fighting attitude, because the people that he has tried to reconcile with, the reconciliation is premature. They have no intention of doing anything they think might make him look good. He puts forth a bill for health care for everybody, got sick people coughing and fighting against it. He put forth a bill for jobs, got unemployed people fighting the jobs, because they are trapped by a blind ideology, and they want to control, they want to conquer. This is the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, and we fighting for civil rights, they fighting for civil war. They want to restore their power. We want to maintain our power. There's a power struggle, a struggle for equal opportunity, a struggle to deny that. Now, in 2008, when we voted in big numbers, we won. If we had voted the same numbers in 2010 we did in 2008, when there been no Tea Party, they won because our vote went down. So if we revive our vote, we have the power to protect our interests. We cannot, in a tug of war, you can't drop the rope and expect to win. When you drop the rope, you're going to get the result, which is a crushing by the enemy of your cause. And so I would say to you that two things must happen. One, we must revive our strength to use our vote, because there's no power in staying home. On the other hand, the president must put forth a kind of daring leadership that inspires people to think that fighting is worth it. Because if you're fighting and you keep losing, you begin to lose your spirit, and you begin to lose air out the basketball. You cannot bounce a basketball without air in it. The air and the hope comes from fighting the right fight.
Reverend, this memorial on August 28th that's going to be unveiled, I was thinking about it. There is actually the King Museum in Atlanta. He has a national holiday. There is a major street in every major city that bears his name. There's all of these monumental institutions or memorials for Dr. King, probably more than anybody in history. I can't think of anybody who has more memorials than him. Why now? Why is he held in such high esteem today?
Well, we love martyrs and we don't love marchers. We love them when they're dead, and yet when they're marching, many people here wouldn't go to. There are many times we had rallies here didn't have 400 people in the church, right here in bigger city Chicago is. We love soldiers, but we don't love veterans so much. We have a way of honoring the dead in ways sometimes we don't honor the living. Jesus, as a living figure fighting for the poor, he got killed by the government. It wasn't a big crowd when he got crucified. He was a bigger force after the resurrection he was before the crucifixion. And yet Dr. King was willing to pay that price of being crucified that we might resurrect our cause and our hope with a renewed vitality. And so in some sense, he symbolizes something good for us because he broke the yoke of legal, humiliating, degrading segregation. We feel good about that. He broke the yoke of our being denied the right to vote. We have prospered from that. He broke that yoke to enable us to have affirmative action, more access to colleges and universities in the country. We are better off in a fundamental sense since his having lived and having died. But he would warn us, beware of all these monuments without substance. He said in his last speech, I have over 400 awards and degrees. It means nothing. I just want to do God's will unless you have some content. So every city I go to has a Martin Luther King Boulevard and sometimes a Malcolm X Boulevard, and they are slum streets. We got the street, we don't have the bank. We don't have the store. We don't have the business. And so often they would give us a symbol and then take away the substance. And so he'll be between Lincoln and Jefferson as a monument to peace. He, Jefferson, a democracy that tried to coexist with us being called three-fifths human and slavery. Lincoln, who made the promise, got killed. The promise was not fulfilled. But the King, a man of peace, put forth a proposition to fulfill much of Lincoln's promises. But he knew that was unfinished business. So he was marching to Washington, to end the war in Vietnam. He said money is used for the war on poverty is going to war in Vietnam. And bombs dropped in Vietnam and exploded in American cities. We must have a plan where there's more of a peace investment than a war commitment. He said also, if the rich keep getting richer and the poor getting poorer, without resources for the poor and resources for military and the wealthy, become morally bankrupt. When we get down this coming week, we're going to see thousands gathered, many of whom are unemployed. Today, there are more wealthy people, more wars, and more poor people. He would be concerned about that. He would protest that, as a matter of fact. $1 trillion, like, where's the money? As we left all these teachers, where's the money? $1 trillion plus in a misguided war in Iraq, $10 million a day to overthrow a government in Libya in northern Africa, $2 billion a week in Afghanistan. Where is the money? The big five oil companies got $1 trillion in profits since 9/11. Where's the money? We bail out the banks without link to lending, the reinvestment. It took away our houses. Where's the money? And where is justice?
Yeah.
The Bush tax cut extension, giving money back to the richest Americans, was more money than all the state budget deficits combined. He would be concerned about us giving more and more to those on the deck of the ship, more and more to those in the cabins of the ship, and less to those trapped in the hull. So he stands as a source of conscience. He would say, Melody, that my job is to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. So many who will embrace him as a statue will not have sure to embrace him as a living prophetic force, challenging the powers that be for the powers that ought to be.
Reverend, this whole theme of this celebration is on the table of brotherhood, the table of brotherhood, which was a part of that speech. Do you think that African Americans still have a seat at the table of brotherhood in this country?
Yeah, brotherhood and sisterhood. We don't have a seat at the bank table. We don't have a seat at the table at their own radio station, TV stations en masse. And so there's a commercial on TV that shows people, all the multiracial people coming together, sitting around this table of brotherhood. But when they leave that table, they're going to different neighborhoods. And some are going to a job, and some are going to unemployment lines. Some are going to a Mercedes, some are going to catch the bus if they have bus fare. So the fact is, we are free but unequal. And until we get the equality and equal protection that we seek, until we end so much lavish wealth upon the richest Americans, and so much unnecessary war. We're going to face more and more agony and pain in these streets, and people are going to cry out. And that's the King tradition. Cry out because it's the right thing to do. And the pressure is that you must put it on all prophets. You know, Dr. King supported Kennedy over Nixon. We still had to march for the public accommodation bill, even to give Kennedy the alternative to choose us or choose Wallace. He supported Johnson over Goldwater. We still had to march for the right to vote. We support President Barack over anybody who's running against him. But our pressure is what make President Barack a great president. If we don't march, if we don't fight back, if we don't vote, we can't even help him. Yeah. So in some sense, our silence is betrayal. We must speak up, speak out, and act up in order to have the power, even to protect our interests. Our interest is in him. Our interest is in our Congress. Our interest in stopping the Tea Party, stopping the Fort Sumter Tea Party, and have the kind of Tea Party that can, in fact, fight for justice and freedom for all.
Are you speaking at the memorial?
Yeah, I'm involved in several ceremonies. I look forward to being it. It's, I must say, it's very emotional when I think about working with Dr. King. And sometimes I just intuit it and don't think about it much because it's always a tearjerker. And I think about we were in Memphis to watch him on that balcony at 39, bleeding to death. It always is a source of great pain. But somehow we must turn that pain into power and energy to keep on fighting back. In his name, we honor his legacy by fighting and standing up, not by surrendering.
Final question, Reverend. Has this movement changed you?
Well, this movement is my life. It is my ministry. It says the dignity is non-negotiable. I can't imagine not fighting for justice, or preaching a sermon that does not involve the contemporary issues of our time. I cannot fight. I cannot accept us putting forward so much and getting so little in return. And so it has changed me. It has transformed my life. It is defined my ministry, and it is in some sense defined what I find worth living and are dying for. And I want to thank you, Melody, and I want to thank the VON family for allowing us to share and work together across these years, because a big factor in his success in Chicago was WVON. The role of Roy Woods as commentator, the blues man at night, talk between B.B. King and Johnny Taylor, the role that Rodney Jones played, and the role that Bernadine Washington played, and Lucky Cordell, that body of radio personalities was his only protection in Chicago. The basic media and political order turned against him. And yet this was the voice of the Negro, the VON, that gave us a way out. And out of that, we planted seeds in 66 that led to Harold Washington in 73, to our campaign in 84 and 88, to Carol Moser Braun, and then to President Barack Obama. Out of this seed sown in Chicago, we've seen a great transformation in the whole country, if not in the whole world.
Well, you've been a part of all that, Reverend, so we need to thank you, too. You know, I don't know, just as you talked about how, you know, Dr. King, after his death, is getting all these memorials. We want to thank you while you're still here.
You know, Melody, that is a scripture. The children of Israel got across the Jordan River, and they couldn't get across. They were frightened because they knew they couldn't swim across. God intervened and held back the waters. They got across. They were celebrating. A voice said, 12 men from each tribe go and get a rock and put it in the bed of the river. Why? We're not going backwards. Why? See, because each one is a memorial that you might remember how God got you across the river. And you know how you got across because you just got across. But in time to come, children will ask you, what are these stones? Tell them how we got across, lest they will not know. If they do not know, they may honor false gods, and not honor the real God, and make the real God angry. You don't want to make God angry because you do not thank him for his blessings. You don't want to give the devil credit for God's blessings. Yeah. And so we remember that we might teach our children how we have made it thus far, but tell them the struggle is not over. Some years ago, I was watching a football game between the Browns and the Jets. And the Jets, for those who know a little football, it was 4th down and 4 yards to go. If they got the 4 yards, they would make a first down. They could keep going. They didn't get 4 yards. It means they had technically lost the ball, and they would go to the Browns. The Browns safety man, in his excitement, threw his helmet up in the air. The referee blew the whistle because technically you cannot take your uniform off before the game is over. The Jets got the ball back with a 15-yard penalty, kicked the field goal, and won the game. He shouted before the game was over. We cannot take our helmet off. The game is not over. Don't shout before the game is over. Look at our schools. Look at the jails, the loss of contracts, the tax we're under. Don't shout. The game is not over. And through it all, let nothing break your spirit. However, keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive, Reverend. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Reverend, that was awesome.
There is still more to unpack from this powerful conversation. Stay tuned for final thoughts on the insightful interview between Rev Jesse Jackson and Melody Spann Cooper, coming up next. This program is copyrighted 2026 by Midway Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved. Unauthorized use or rebroadcast of this program is strictly prohibited.
Chicago Medicine Ingalls Memorial believes a few things. They believe that care that knows your life is care that knows your needs. That world-class care belongs in your neighborhood. That care that listens to you is care that's made for you. From primary and specialty care to emergency department services, comprehensive health care is under one roof in Calumet City, Flossmoor, Harvey, and Tinley Park, providing you and your family the best care possible. Visit uchicagomedicine.org/FCC to find what you need close to home.
Chicago, Juliana Stratton isn't being honest about who she is. Fact, Juliana Stratton was the hand-picked candidate of the corrupt Madigan machine, the same machine that spent millions to put her in office. And Stratton repaid the favor, defending Mike Madigan even after his bribery scheme was exposed. Fact, Stratton's massive super PAC is funded by the very contractor running the Broadview ICE Detention Center. Think about it. ICE raids Chicago. Stratton benefits from ICE contractor cash. Fact, Juliana Stratton got caught lying about refusing money from MAGA donors. That's right, Stratton's campaign is bankrolled by MAGA Republicans. Madigan machine, ICE contractor cash, MAGA money. Add those facts up and it's clear. Saying one thing, doing another. That's Juliana Stratton. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairShakePAC.com.
We now return to our special WVON program and to our final thoughts on that powerful exchange between Rev Jesse Jackson and Melody Spann Cooper.
Reverend Jackson addressed the 1988 Democratic National Convention. He was at the pinnacle of his civil rights career. He had reached his mountaintop. And nearly a quarter of a century later, he was ready to reflect on his legacy.
I was born to a teenage mother who was born to a teenage mother. I understand. I know abandonment and people being mean to you and saying you're nothing and nobody and can never be anything. I understand. Jesse Jackson is my third name. I'm adopted. When I had no name, my grandmother gave me her name. My name was Jesse Burns till I was 12. So I wouldn't have a blank space. She gave me a name to hold me over. I understand when nobody knows your name. I understand when you have no name. I understand. I wasn't born in the hospital. Mama didn't have insurance. I was born in the bed at house. I really do understand. Born in a 3-room house, bathroom in the backyard, slop job by the bed, no hot and cold running water. I understand. Wallpaper used for decoration? No, for a windbreaker. I understand. I'm a working person's person. That's why I understand you, whether you're black or white, I understand work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I had a shovel programmed for my hand. My mother, a working woman. So many days she went to work early, with runs in her stockings. She knew better, but she rolled runs in her stockings so that my brother and I could have matching socks and not be laughed at school. I understand. At 3 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, we couldn't eat turkey because Mama was preparing somebody else's turkey at 3 o'clock. We had to play football to entertain ourselves. And then around 6 o'clock, she would get off the Alta Vista bus and we would bring up the leftovers and eat our turkey, leftovers, the caucus, the cranberries, around 8 o'clock at night. I really do understand. Every one of these funny labels they put on you, those of you who are watching this broadcast tonight in the projects, on the corners, I understand. Call you outcast, low down, you can't make it, you're nothing, you're from nobody, subclass, underclass. When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you are qualified and you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. This movement is my life. It is my ministry. It says the dignity is non-negotiable. I can't imagine not fighting for justice, or preaching a sermon that does not involve the contemporary issues of our time. I cannot fight. I cannot accept us putting forward so much and getting so little in return. And so it has changed. It has transformed my life. It is defined my ministry, and it is in some sense defined what I find worth living and are dying for.
Don't let the spin get you down. Things are moving fast. Hold on tight, and you will last. Keep your self-respect and your woman and the bride. Get yourself in gear. Keep your stride. Never mind your fear. Never mind, I'm never mind. Brighter days will soon begin. Take it from me someday. We'll all be free.
This special WVON presentation was brought to you by Midway Broadcasting Corporation, produced by Shapira Willis, because great stories deserve great sound. This program is copyrighted 2026 by Midway Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved. Unauthorized use or rebroadcast of this program is strictly prohibited.
This is Congressman Danny Davis. For decades, the Cook County Assessor's Office was plagued by corruption. That's all changed with Fritz Kagi. Fritz Kagi brought real transparency to the assessor's office, and he's made it easier and more affordable for the people who need it most: seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. Under Fritz, hundreds of thousands of residents have seen lower tax bills, and for many others, he's kept increases down by making sure wealthy commercial property owners finally pay their fair share. This is what reform looks like: honest, accountable, and on the side of working people. I'm Danny Davis. Join me to support Democrat Fritz Kagi for Cook County Assessor. Primary day is Tuesday, March 17th.
Paid for by Friends for Fritz.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-518-9301. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-518-9301. That's 800-518-9301. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010. Since then, they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than big box stores. Blindster.com.
Join us Friday, March 6th at 7:30 p.m. at Governor State University for a powerful evening in Sherman Hall. Experience a special preview screening of Meta Ase, a Ghana Public Health Brigade story, an inspiring documentary following Governor State students and faculty on a life-changing journey to Ghana through the Public Health Brigade. Stay after the film for a live Q&A moderated by alumna Keisha Dyson, plus a panel featuring Doctors Bing, Cummings, and the Brigade team. Open captions will be provided for both the film and the discussion. Be a part of the story. March 6th, Sherman Hall at 7:30 p.m. Learn more at govstate.edu.
This report is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Hey, baby! I'm your Magnolia Blues man, Sir Henry Cheatham, inviting you to join us on WVON 1690 for some real American music and culture. Here on Classic Blues and R&B. Check us out Saturday, 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. on WVON and Classic Blues and R&B.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to